Hi, my name is Luca Rudenstein, and I am a 10th grader from the NuVu Innovation School in Cambridge, Massachusetts. For my project, I looked into how to create wearable therapeutic design to combat anxiety and stress, especially right now in today's world. Now, kind of at the start of my brainstorming process, I really just reflected on the experiences and emotions that were coming up for me during this pandemic and quarantine, and stress came to mind immediately. And I kind of immediately sketched out, how does this look in my body, and visualized it as this little seed in the pit of my stomach growing up my body to the back of my throat, kind of filling my body with tension. And it didn't feel ugly. It felt kind of like this plant because it was out of care and love for my family and the world, and just everything going on right now. And so I started off my researching process by mapping where the body holds stress, how that stress manifests itself, like tension and pain and nausea. Um, and then also, what are these scents and kind of like therapeutic ways that I can create wearable design that isn't just massages or physical therapy or going to therapy, medications, etc. So what are scents that bring up relaxation or energize you? What are sensations like electrotherapy and warmth and compression that all can combat this physical stress in the body? And so I also mapped out these different nodes and kind of what could my design possibly accomplish, and what could it hit, and areas it could affect, and bring calm to the physical body. And so I imagine that the user is having high cortisol levels, tension, pain, they're feeling stressed, and they have this touch sensor which activates this heat throughout this fabric. And there's this visual actuation of the garment kind of taking on this green plant pattern. And also the scent, this aroma is released. And I wanted it to be a personal scent that really evoked kind of memory and this feeling of freeing oneself from the stress. And so I designed two main components for this therapeutic design, which was a bioscent flower that secreted and released these scent molecules that were made from personal bacteria and yeast cells. And then also this Thermo-Hug branch that had heat kind of running through it, almost hugging the body with warmth, like a hug, which we can't really do right now because of social distancing. And so I looked into kind of Ginkgo Bio Works and was really inspired by their work reviving the smell of extinct plants, where they extracted DNA from these extinct flowers and then programmed yeast cells using the extracted DNA to have these scent molecules. And they created this chamber where you'd walk in and have this really immersive experience where the scent was just kind of all encompassing. And that was a really great blueprint for kind of what I imagined my engineered scents to be, which is that there would be these strips of DNA from the yeast cells, and that within these, there'd be these programmed genes that would produce these molecules. And I wanted, like I said, these scents to evoke this memory, this sense of freeing oneself from the stresses around them. And so for me, a scent that is really powerful is the ground after rain. And how can I create this scent that you can't really buy in a store or bottle or grow naturally? Like it's a real experience. How can I engineer it using people's own bacteria and yeast cells to bring on this sense of calm? And so using microneedling, which would sample cortisol and kind of muscular tension chemicals in the bodies and their levels, I imagined that basically it would sample it, then there would be these scent chambers where the genes are, and the cortisol would then interact with these genes and produce this molecule, which is then released through this porous membrane in the suit. And here you can see there's this branch highlighted, and this the bio scent flower and the petals, and this scent is kind of, the aroma is wafting out of it. And here's a little gif of kind of this imagined actuation of sampling the hormone levels in the body, and then interacting with these genes, producing these molecules, and then releasing them in this sense of comfort. And so here on a very small zoomed in level of the cell, you can see these imagined cortisol and muscular tension chemicals and their molecules entering into the cell, then interacting with the scent producing gene and creating this custom scent molecule, which, because it's a porous membrane, it then secretes out into the air. And kind of my initial idea for the Thermo-Hug branch, moving into Thermo-Hug branch design, was that I'd have these heat conductive threads that would run through the suit, and kind of heat would be running only through these threads. And there'd be these tubings that had scent and helped compress the suit. And so you'd have this heat and compression piece going hand in hand. And just using like embroidery and paint and leggings that I had at home, I just kind of imagined through prototyping, like, what could this be on a really low scale, and how can I embroider this into design? But then I really wanted to utilize the resources I had. And so moving forward, I made much more of a electrical based design, looking at a touch sensor that when you touched heat conductive fabric rather than heat conductive threads, heat would run through the whole suit. That would be hooked up to some programmed Arduino, and then this diffuser pad for prototyping purposes that would release essential oils. And so imagining that this oil diffuser pad is the petals, the bioscent flower from earlier, there would be that setup that would be secreting the scent, and then the pigment, the bodysuit, and the heat conductive fabric. And so I programmed a touch sensor into this Arduino that I had available, and then here's a video of me touching the end of the wire and this LED light turning on, just imagining that this LED light represented this heat that would run through the fabric. I also knew I wanted pretty uniform branches to keep this plant element alive, and so using a CAD application, I just created these stamp models that I doubled up and laser cut into wood, and then created these stamps, which I then, mixing kind of silvery paint with the powder, which you can see here, and water, I just created like a liquid base that I could stamp onto the heat conductive fabric that I received. Here's me practicing on an old t-shirt and using felt that I had to mimic these little petals that I had imagined. And here's a video of that actuation in this heat conductive fabric that I got, and heat running through and changing the fabric, which was really exciting to see, this kind of actuation happening. And so if you imagine that on the whole suit, all the nodes lighting up and changing color. Yeah, and so, I mean, really this was just, there's a lot more steps to come. And I really was just playing around with and thinking about, like, what is the future of wearable design? How can I make biosynthetics and therapeutic wearable design not this clunky thing you have to put on, and make it as seamless as your skin, and like a second skin to your body? And how can I do that with prototyping at home? And so it's a really exciting experience to be presenting, and thank you.